Hello, this is Robert from the Open Eye, and first things first, I'd like to apologize for the grainy video. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that, but we'll just move right along. Today, I wanted to do an episode of Talk to the Rock and speak about a stone called ruby corundum. This is said stone. It is this particular one is cut in hexagonal fashion. And if you look back over here, you can see that there is actually a flash of ruby in this stone. Um, that's really not why I have the stone, but it is the same type of setting that sapphire is in. It's a very hard stone. This is actually the second hardest mineral behind a diamond. So there's your mineralogical tidbit about this particular stone. The reason people use this stone is because it activates a life force. It brings courage, passion, strength, enthusiasm, protectiveness, that sort of thing. And it's associated with the root chakra. And I picked this up night before last and took it to work with me today and found some very interesting things to happen. I don't know if I've told a story on video before, but I wasn't into rocks at all. And I've been doing this for a long time and thought people into rocks were a little bit weird to say they could feel vibes off of rocks. I never could, but I'm kind of weird too, so whatever. And I don't know what happened, but one day I was unpacking a bunch of tumbled stones in the shop and I basically went nuts. I was frenetic, I was anxious. I can't say that I felt sick, but I certainly felt really weird. And I realized that it was because I was handling all these stones. And then when I went over to feel the area where I had them set up, I could tell the energy flow wasn't right. So I rearranged the stones, and all of a sudden the shop looked crystal clear. I can't explain it any better than that, except the whole shop looked cleaner. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And then when I left and I was away from the presence of the rocks, I calmed down pretty quickly. So that's how I got into rocks. Well, this particular stone, I sat it right in front of me on my desk at work. So it was right about there. And my hands were around it as I was working on the computer. And I felt that kind of energy, that energy that made me so uncomfortable when I unpacked the rocks, only it was much quieter. And because it was quieter, I could feel it and think about it and analyze it. And what I was feeling was a kind of stress. But at that low ebb, it didn't really upset me in any way. It was just kind of a focus stressor, if that makes sense. And I found myself working harder at my job. I was paying closer attention to what I was doing. I got a lot done today. And I attribute those things to the ruby corundum. It is a root chakra thing. It's very earthy, but there's a lot of energy behind it. And I believe that helped me get a lot of work done. During my lunch break, I quieted myself down because I realized I was the only person in the room and focused on the rock and asked the rock what it could teach me about myself. And I don't know if it was the rock that answered or some other part of me or my root chakra. I don't know. But I heard an answer. And the answer was the reason why you get lazy, especially when it comes to outdoor work, is because of social anxiety you had as a kid. And I remembered that I was always embarrassed when I had to go out and mow the lawn. I don't know why. My friends mowed the lawn, but when anybody saw me working, I thought it was embarrassing. And even then, I didn't understand why that was the case. But the more I questioned the rock, if you will, the more I was told it was more social anxiety. I was afraid of talking to people or meeting people and that sort of thing at that age. And that was very true. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to have conversations. I was kind of awkward. And so I projected those awkward feelings on doing work that was out of doors. And that translated into a lot of other types of work as well. I have a lot of projects I want to do around the house. I want to write books. I want to do other things, but I'm too lazy to do them. And that just might be because I have tied working with this social anxiety thing. I don't know yet, but I thought it was an interesting insight, and it's not an insight I would have had unless I was working with this particular rock and the root chakra while I was on the job, because it was on the job that I noticed how focused I was and how much effect this particular rock was having on me. So that's my deal on ruby corundum. Um, it's a pretty cool stone. I like it. It's not the prettiest stone I've ever seen, but it certainly did have an effect on me. And I'm going to keep this particular stone on my altar, basically because I have a lot of really high energy on my altar, the radius from my altar, and I would like to ground it a little bit and bring that spiritual energy down to an earthly level. So that's my talk on Ruby Corundum for the day. I hope you enjoyed it and you subscribe and come in and visit us at the Open Eye.